There's a surprising freedom I've found at 70, and it's in avoiding people. It might sound odd or even a little sad at first, but let me ask you this. Ever wonder why some of us choose solitude as we age? You might think it's about loneliness, but trust me, it's something much deeper. And if you stick with me, I'll explain why this decision has brought more peace and clarity to my life than I ever imagined. Before we begin, they say only the boldest seniors dare to hit the red subscribe button. Are you one of them? Prove it now by subscribing. In my younger years, my life was filled with people, family, friends, colleagues. Every hour was spent meeting expectations, navigating relationships, and chasing a sense of belonging. But somewhere along the way, I began to notice something. Not all interactions left me feeling enriched. Some drained me. Others felt obligatory, like I was wearing a mask just to fit in. When I reached my 70s, I realized something crucial. My time is precious. Each moment feels like a gift, and I want to spend it intentionally with people and experiences that truly matter. That's when I began to embrace solitude, not as isolation, but as a way to reconnect with myself. You see, solitude doesn't mean being lonely. It means being selective. It's choosing peace over chaos, clarity over noise. It's about reclaiming your energy and focusing on what genuinely brings you joy. Whether it's reading a book, tending a garden, or simply enjoying a quiet cup of coffee, there's a profound beauty in spending time alone. For most of my life, I believe being surrounded by people was the key to happiness. My days were filled with endless social obligations, family gatherings, work events, friendly get-togethers. It all felt so necessary, like the more people I had in my life, the richer it would be. But as I reached 70, something shifted. I remember the exact moment. It was my birthday, a day that should have been a celebration of another milestone. The house was filled with activity, friends catching up, grandkids running around, the hum of conversation filling every corner. And yet, amidst all the noise, I felt empty. Not lonely, but disconnected, like I was observing my life from the outside rather than truly living it. That night, after everyone had left, I sat down with a cup of tea and a rare moment of silence. I asked myself, why do I feel this way? Why, after years of investing in relationships and social obligations, does my soul feel so depleted? The answer wasn't easy to confront. Over the years, I had said yes to too many things that didn't bring me joy. I had stretched myself thin, prioritizing others' needs and expectations while my own desires were pushed aside. I realized that much of what I had been doing, attending events, maintaining friendships that had long since faded in meaning, was out of habit, not genuine fulfillment. At 70, something shifted. I no longer felt the need to prove anything to anyone. The expectations that once governed my life began to feel like an unnecessary weight, and I found myself craving something simpler. I didn't want to be busy for the sake of being busy. I wanted to feel peace. I wanted to reflect on the life I had built and savor the time I had left. This wasn't a retreat into solitude out of bitterness or disappointment. It was a conscious decision to align my life with my values. I started small, saying no to invitations that felt more like obligations than opportunities for connection. I began spending my mornings walking in the quiet woods near my home, letting the stillness remind me of what really mattered. I stopped chasing social validation and started embracing self-reflection. And in doing so, I began to understand something profound. We don't need as many people in our lives as we think we do. In fact, the relationships that truly matter, the ones that bring joy, understanding, and growth, are often the simplest. A heartfelt phone call with a lifelong friend. A genuine conversation with a grandchild. These moments felt more meaningful than any crowded room or superficial exchange. Stepping back from constant social obligations allowed me to reconnect with myself. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since my 30s. I picked up hobbies I'd always been too busy for, like painting and gardening. I began to rediscover the simple joys that got lost in the chaos of life. This turning point wasn't about shutting people out. It was about making space. Space for peace, for clarity, for self-reflection. It was about choosing intentionality over obligation. The shift helped me see that solitude isn't a void. It's a canvas where we can paint the life we truly want. Looking back, I see now that this realization is universal. Whether we're 70 or 30, all of us crave moments of stillness. We all need time to step back, reflect, and ask ourselves what truly matters. And for me, that journey started with the decision to embrace solitude, not as loneliness, but as liberation. That birthday marked the moment I stopped living for others and started living for myself. It wasn't easy, and it required letting go of some long-held beliefs about what life should look like. But the freedom and peace I found on the other side made it all worth it. There's an unspoken assumption in society that a full life is a busy life, a constant cycle of social engagements, commitments, and connections. For decades, I bought into that belief. I thought that spending time alone was something to avoid, a sign of loneliness or lack. But at 70, I've discovered the opposite. Solitude is one of life's most precious gifts, offering creativity, clarity, and a deeper connection to oneself. Spending more time alone opened up a world I hadn't explored in years. For the first time in decades, I rediscovered the joy of reading. Not just skimming headlines or rushing through books for work, but truly getting lost in the pages of a novel, savoring each word, and letting the story transport me. These moments of quiet immersion brought a kind of peace and inspiration I hadn't felt since childhood. I also found solace in taking long, solitary walks. There's something magical about wandering through the woods or along a quiet street, with nothing but the rhythm of your own footsteps and the sounds of nature. These walks became more than just exercise. They were moving meditations, moments where my mind could wander freely and my thoughts could settle. The clarity that came from these walks often surprised me. Questions I'd been wrestling with seemed to untangle themselves, and I'd return home with a sense of calm and direction. Perhaps the greatest gift of solitude, though, was the space it gave me to explore neglected hobbies. I picked up a paintbrush for the first time since I was in my 20s, and I found a joy in creating that had been buried under decades of to-do lists and obligations. My garden became my sanctuary, a place where I could lose myself in the simple act of nurturing life, watching flowers bloom and vegetables grow. Each of these activities brought a sense of fulfillment that no crowded party or endless social small talk ever could. But choosing solitude wasn't just about embracing these joys. It was also about stepping away from the expectations that society places on us. Society often equates constant interaction with success and happiness. We're taught to value extroversion, to always be on, to maintain appearances, and to keep up with social obligations, even when they feel draining. At 70, I stopped playing that game. I realized that life isn't a performance, and I no longer needed to meet anyone's expectations but my own. The irony is that by stepping back, I found more authenticity in the connections I chose to keep. When I did spend time with others, it was because I genuinely wanted to, not because I felt I had to. Those moments became richer, more meaningful, and more fulfilling. Solitude also gave me the space to truly know myself. In the stillness, I began to reflect on my life, the mistakes I'd made, the triumphs I'd achieved, the lessons I'd learned. I started to ask myself questions I hadn't dared to before. What do I really want? What makes me happy? Who am I when no one else is around? The answers didn't come all at once, but the process of self-discovery was transformative. I began to see that my value didn't come from how others perceived me, but from how I saw myself. I learned to embrace my flaws, celebrate my strengths, and find joy in simply being. Of course, choosing solitude isn't without its challenges. There were moments when I questioned whether I was doing the right thing, whether I was missing out by stepping back. But those moments were fleeting, quickly replaced by the deep satisfaction of living life on my own terms. The more time I spent alone, the more I realized how much pressure society places on us to conform to its definitions of success and happiness. We're told to climb career ladders, host dinner parties, and stay endlessly connected. But those societal markers often lead us away from what truly fulfills us. Solitude, on the other hand, offers a chance to strip away those external pressures and reconnect with what really matters. For me, the hidden joy of solitude lies in its simplicity. It's in the quiet mornings spent journaling, the hours lost in a favorite book, the satisfaction of completing a painting, or the stillness of a sunset viewed in silence. It's in the freedom to be fully yourself, without the need for validation or approval from anyone else. Choosing solitude isn't about rejecting people or relationships. It's about prioritizing the ones that truly matter. It's about creating space for creativity, clarity, and self-discovery. And most importantly, it's about finding joy in your own company. At 70, I've learned that solitude isn't something to fear, it's something to cherish. It's where I've found my truest self, and it's where I've discovered that the greatest joys in life often come not from adding more, but from embracing less. Over 7 decades of life, I've shared meals, conversations, and experiences with hundreds, if not thousands of people. These moments taught me a lot about human nature, both its beauty and its flaws. Some lessons were heartwarming, others painful, but each one shaped my understanding of relationships and ultimately helped me realize the importance of setting boundaries for my own well-being. One of the first lessons I learned is how deeply people crave connection. This need for belonging is universal. It transcends age, culture, and time. Over the years, I've seen it in the unspoken joy of friends sharing a laugh, in the quiet comfort of a child seeking their parents' embrace, and even in the way strangers exchange polite smiles. At our core, we all want to feel seen and valued. But this same desire for connection can lead to challenges. Not every relationship is built on mutual respect or understanding. I've encountered people who are endlessly giving, offering their time and energy to anyone who asks, often at great personal cost. I've also known those who take without hesitation, treating others' kindness as a resource to exploit. Recognizing these patterns in human behavior has been a bittersweet journey. In my earlier years, I often felt obligated to say yes to everyone. I didn't want to disappoint or create conflict, but over time I began to notice how draining that was. Relationships that should have brought joy instead left me feeling exhausted. Some people came into my life only to take, whether it was my time, energy, or attention, without giving anything back. It wasn't always easy to acknowledge, but not every connection is meant to last. Some friendships fade naturally, while others require intentional boundaries to protect your peace. One of the hardest lessons I've learned is that it's okay to let go. Holding on to relationships out of guilt or habit doesn't serve anyone. But it's not all challenges and heartbreak. There are moments when people's capacity for kindness and love leaves me in awe. I've seen individuals go to extraordinary lengths to support each other, often in ways that defy logic or expectation. It's in these acts of selflessness that the beauty of human connection shines brightest. One memory that stands out is a time when a neighbor, whom I'd barely spoken to before, showed up at my door with a casserole after my spouse's passing. She didn't ask questions or expect anything in return. She simply wanted to help. That gesture reminded me of the quiet, profound ways people can care for each other. But for every uplifting story, there are cautionary tales. I've noticed how easily some people project their insecurities and pain onto others. It's a pattern that often plays out subtly, through passive-aggressive comments, unnecessary criticism, or unrealistic demands. Recognizing these behaviors has helped me understand that not every reaction is about me. Often it's a reflection of the other person's struggles. This realization has been crucial in learning to set boundaries. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out. It's about defining what you will and won't accept in your life. It's about protecting your emotional energy so you can focus on relationships that truly matter. One boundary I've become firm about is saying no. I no longer feel the need to attend every event or accept every invitation. I've learned to prioritize the connections that bring me joy and growth while gracefully stepping away from those that don't. At first, this was difficult. I worried about hurting feelings or being seen as selfish. But over time, I realized that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for well-being. Another lesson I've embraced is that it's okay to ask for what you need in relationships. Whether it's more understanding, respect, or space, expressing your needs helps build stronger, healthier connections. It also helps filter out those who aren't willing to meet you halfway. I've also come to accept that people grow and change, and not all relationships are meant to last forever. This used to make me sad, but now I see it as a natural part of life. Some people are in our lives for a season, teaching us lessons or offering companionship for a time. Others become lifelong constants. Both types of relationships are valuable, and it's important to appreciate them for what they are without clinging to what they're not. At 70, I've found that the relationships I cherish most are the ones built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. These are the connections where I feel free to be myself, without judgment or pretense. They don't demand constant maintenance or energy. Instead, they thrive on a shared appreciation for each other's presence. Ultimately, the most important lesson I've learned about people is this: you can't control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. You can choose who to let into your life, how much of yourself to give, and when to walk away. These choices aren't always easy, but they're essential for living a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. So, as I reflect on 7 decades of relationships, I'm filled with gratitude for the lessons, the love, and even the challenges. Each experience has brought me closer to understanding myself and what I truly need. And if there's one thing I hope others can take from my journey, it's this: set boundaries, prioritize your well-being, and don't be afraid to choose peace. Because the greatest gift we can give ourselves, and others, is the freedom to live with intention and authenticity. Aging is often painted in bleak colors by society, a time of decline, loneliness, and loss. Solitude, in particular, is frequently misunderstood. People tend to equate it with isolation, sadness, or even failure. But as I've discovered at 70, solitude is not something to pity or fear. On the contrary, choosing solitude can be an act of strength, self-awareness, and intentional living. It's time to challenge these cultural misconceptions and reframe how we view aging and time spent alone. One of the most pervasive stereotypes about aging is the idea that solitude is synonymous with loneliness. The two couldn't be more different. Loneliness is a longing for connection, a feeling of emptiness or being left out. Solitude, on the other hand, is a deliberate choice, a conscious decision to spend time with oneself. It's not about avoiding people, but about prioritizing peace and self-discovery. Yet society struggles to see the distinction. Media often portrays older adults who live alone as tragic figures, forgotten by family, disconnected from the world. Think of the character Ebenezer Scrooge before his transformation: bitter, isolated, and deeply unhappy. This image reinforces the fear of growing old alone and perpetuates the myth that solitude is inherently undesirable. But what these portrayals miss is the richness that solitude can offer. In solitude, there is space to reflect, grow, and appreciate life without distraction. It's not about rejecting people, but about embracing oneself. Choosing solitude, especially as an older adult, requires courage and self-awareness. It means stepping away from societal expectations and defining life on your terms. This choice is often misunderstood because it challenges the narrative that a full life must be filled with constant social activity. When I decided to prioritize solitude, some people in my life were puzzled. They asked, "Don't you feel lonely?" Or "Why don't you want to be around others more?" These questions came from a place of care, but they also revealed a deeper assumption: that being alone is inherently sad or abnormal. What they didn't understand is that solitude gave me the freedom to focus on what truly matters. It allowed me to reflect on my experiences, explore my passions, and reconnect with my sense of purpose. Far from being a retreat from life, solitude became a way to engage with it more fully. Our culture often views aging through a lens of loss of youth, productivity, and relevance. This mindset influences how we perceive older adults who choose to spend time alone. Take, for example, the trope of the lonely old man or cat lady, common in books, movies, and even casual conversation. These stereotypes reduce the complexity of aging to something pitiable and dismiss the wisdom and agency of older individuals. But there are also stories that celebrate the power of solitude. Henry David Thoreau's Walden is a timeless example, chronicling his retreat to the woods to live deliberately and discover the essentials of life. Although Thoreau wasn't elderly, his reflections on solitude resonate across generations. He wrote, "I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude." In a modern context, figures like Maya Angelou and Jane Goodall offer inspiring examples of individuals who found strength and clarity in solitude. Angelou spoke often about the importance of quiet time for creativity and introspection, while Goodall's solitary time observing chimpanzees in the wild shaped her groundbreaking work. These examples remind us that solitude isn't about isolation. It's about connection, whether to oneself, nature, or the universe. For me, the decision to embrace solitude wasn't immediate. It was a gradual realization. I'd recall a holiday season a few years ago, when I decided not to attend the usual flurry of parties and gatherings. Instead, I spent those days at home, journaling, cooking, and reflecting on the year. I expected to feel left out or regretful, but instead, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Without the noise of constant social interaction, I noticed things I'd overlooked before. The stillness of a winter morning, the satisfaction of preparing a meal for myself, the joy of listening to music I loved without interruption. That holiday became one of my most memorable, not because of grand celebrations, but because of the peace I found in solitude. Over time, I began to see that this choice wasn't about withdrawing. It was about reclaiming my energy and focus. I stopped saying yes to every invitation out of obligation and started saying yes to myself. It's time to reframe the narrative around solitude and aging. Solitude doesn't mean giving up on life. It means stepping into it with intention. It's an opportunity to rediscover what brings joy, to nurture passions, and to reflect on the journey that brought us here. For those who fear solitude, I'd suggest starting small. Take a few minutes each day to sit quietly with your thoughts. Go for a walk without your phone. Try a hobby that you can enjoy on your own, like painting, gardening, or writing. These moments of stillness may surprise you with their richness. For those who see solitude in others and feel pity, consider this. Solitude often reflects a deep strength and self-awareness. It's not about loneliness, but about knowing what you need and having the courage to honor it. At 70, I've come to see solitude as one of life's greatest gifts. It has taught me to appreciate the beauty of the present moment, to listen to my inner voice, and to let go of the need for external validation. It has helped me redefine success, not as business or popularity, but as peace and fulfillment. So the next time you see someone spending time alone, don't assume they're lonely. They might just be embracing a deeper connection with themselves and the world around them. Solitude isn't a void. It's a space where life's truest joys can emerge. Because here's the truth, solitude isn't about being alone. It's about being whole. At 70, I've discovered something many people spend a lifetime searching for: the freedom to live life on my own terms. Avoiding unnecessary social interactions isn't about rejection or bitterness. It's about choosing peace, clarity, and joy over obligation and noise. It's about reclaiming time and energy to focus on what truly matters. Through this journey, I've learned that solitude isn't something to fear or pity. It's a powerful act of self-awareness, a decision to honor your needs and prioritize your well-being. By stepping back from the constant demand for interaction, I've been able to find deeper connections with myself, with the people who truly matter, and with the world around me. So let me leave you with this. If you truly listened to what your heart wanted, who would you spend time with? And who would you avoid? Take a moment to reflect on the relationships and commitments in your life. Are they bringing you joy and fulfillment, or are they draining your energy? What would your days look like if you embraced your version of peace, whether that's in solitude, with loved ones, or through meaningful pursuits? The beauty of life is that we get to choose how we spend our time. Whether you're 70, 30, or somewhere in between, it's never too late to redefine your priorities and create a life that feels authentic to you. Avoiding people isn't about running away. It's about coming home to yourself. And when you do, you may find, as I have, that the quieter path often leads to the most profound peace. If you enjoyed watching this video, please drop your thoughts in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring videos. Thanks for watching.